Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this big fella right here, Warhammer Underworlds Shadespire. It's the new title that's coming out from Games Workshop, and it is a tactical arena combat game for 2 to 4 players. Now, that's kind of that has a little caveat with it because in this singular box, it's only for 2 players, but you can buy other expansions. So, for example, you could buy the Sepulchral Guard. I don't even know if I pronounced that correctly, but they're basically skeletons. You can also get Iron Skull's boys and so forth and so on. These come with all the models and the decks that are necessary for them. We're going to get to those in a different review though, a different video. So you can have, if you have 2 copies of the base set, you can go up to 3 and 4 players with it. But in the core box, it's just 2 players. You're trying to get the most glory points, and you do that by knocking out the other guy's miniatures. There are objective cards that you can win to get more glory points. Whoever has the most glory points at the end of the game wins. Let's get down to the table. I'll show you how it works, and then we'll come back with some final thoughts later on. So from the very beginning of setup, the game has already begun as far as strategizing how the board is going to set up. If each person is going to bring a board, these are also double-sided, and they choose which way they're going to set up. So of course the first person is just going to lay the board down either long ways or short ways, short ways being this way, long ways that way. And then the other person gets to choose whether or not it's going to be a long corridor and lay up edge to edge on the short edge where at least 2 hexes have to match, or is he going to play against the long edge where at least 3 hexes have to be created? You can have more than that, but it has to be no less than 3. And then there's going to be a part where you're going to be placing these objective tokens, and they're shuffled randomly. Then you have a roll-off. Each person rolls 4 dice, and whoever gets the most criticals, these things right here, is the person who gets to place the objective tokens first. So then they'll go out and do that as well. After those are done, you actually draw your hand of cards. You're going to get 5 power cards and 3 objective cards each side. Now, after people draw their cards, then you start placing fighters on the board. And again, another roll-off is rolled. Whoever had the most criticals gets to place their models first. So we'll just say that the Reavers won, and they're going to choose to place their model first. So this was the Reavers board, and these places right here are the starting locations for the Reavers. And then over here, these are the starting locations for the Eternals. So let's say that he wanted to place his leader first, so he's going to place his leader right here. And then the Eternals would be able to place one of theirs, and so let's maybe say that he wanted to place his leader here. And then they would continue back and forth in fashion like that until all the models are on the board. Now, before we get into gameplay, I did want to just take a few moments and go over each of the different kinds of cards that you have here. First of all, these are the player cards that represent the stats that each of your models are going to have on the board. So first of all, if you look at Garrett Gorebeard here, we see that he is the leader of this squad, so to speak, because of the crown that's on his card right here. Up here is there is a pictorial representation of what his model looks like. So we know that Garrett Gorebeard is this dude right here because it matches that symbol there. Down here is his attack profile. So he can use his Bloodbringer axe at a range of 1. So 1 hex away. Basically, he has to be adjacent to the person he's attacking. He's going to be rolling 2 white dice for his attack. And the dice or face that he's looking for are the axes. And that's all right there in this thing. If the attack is successful, it's going to score 2 damage, which is what this means right down here. Down at the bottom of the card, this is how many hexes he can move if he's activated to move during the turn. This is his defense characteristic, meaning that he's going to roll 1 black die for defense, and he's looking for the dodge side of the dice. Furthermore, this is his hit points, and so once he takes or exceeds that many hit points, he is knocked out of the game. Now, there is this area right here of the card, and here for Garrick, it's just kind of fluff text, but you'll see over here with Arnulf that his text actually does have game consequences here. Now, on top of that, there are power cards and objective cards in the deck. So the power cards are different things that you'll be able to play during the power step to sometimes... for example, there are ploy cards, and these are cards that just do certain things throughout the course of the game. For example, this one specifically says sidestep, choose a friendly fighter and push them 1 hex. So it's a way, this card is a way for you to get an extra move out of your warrior without having to actually activate him and take an action to do so. For example, this is an upgrade card denoted by the cogs that are up here in the symbol. And this is specifically for Garrick. Only Garrick can receive this upgrade, and it gives him +1 defense whenever he's the target of the attack. Now, objective cards are going to be how you score glory points during the course of the game, which is important because glory points is how you win the game. At the end of 3 rounds, whoever has the most glory points is the winner. The way you score glory points is by completing certain types of objectives. For example, this one says, score this card at the end of the 3rd end phase if all of your surviving fighters are in your opponent's territory. Here, if I just hold objective 5, which is one of the objective tiles that we placed out at the beginning of the game, if I hold objective 5 during one of the rounds, at the end phase, I can score this and get 1 glory point for it. During your turn, during each round, each player has 4 activations that they can use for a number of different things. You can activate a model to move. You can activate a model to move and then attack, which is called a charge. You can activate a model to put a fighter on guard, which means that, for example, if he's holding an objective and he wants to make sure he kind of has the best opportunity to stay there till the end of the round, you would put a guard token on him, which basically means that he gets a free block if somebody attacks him. You can also make a action on a printed fighter card. So maybe a fighter card has an action that you have to activate in order to use. Or maybe there is a card, a power card that says action on it, and you want to use that card as an action. You can also activate to draw a power card. And then there's also the opportunity to pay a activation to discard a objective card and then draw one to replace it. And then, of course, you can also just pass and do nothing. Let's see that Karsus here wants to be the first one into the fray, and let's take a look at our cards and see what we have. First of all, for objectives, we do have hold objective 5, which is right there in front of us. So let's just say that Karsus the Chained is going to activate. We're going to flip that token over to notice that we did activate him, and he can move up to his movement points in hexes. So he can move 4. He's just going to move 2, however, and then we have to denote that he has moved and he won't be able to move again. And at this point, I have the opportunity to play a power card. This is called a power step. After each activation, a power step occurs where the person who did the activation can play a power card. And then his opponent has the opportunity to play a power card. And then I will have the opportunity to play a second power card if I wish. And that would actually continue until both people pass. All right, so as I look here, now upgrades cost glory points to actually play onto your people. I don't have any glory points to spend right now, so these guys are automatically off the board, off the table as far as being able to be played right now. And I am going to play this one, which allows me to choose a friendly fighter and push them 1 hex. So we're going to go ahead and use that on him and move him closer, just as a way of getting a little bit closer up to the battle. And now my opponent has a chance to play one of his cards if he wishes. All right, so as we look at the power cards that the Sigmarites can have, again, the upgrades can't be played because we don't have any glory points to play with them, but these two ploy cards are able to be played here. Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to do this and do Peal of Thunder, and we're going to push him off over here like that. He has already moved. He won't be able to move again. So I don't know why he was going to that objective, but he's probably wanting to hold it because he didn't move his entire movement. So we're going to go ahead and push him off of there, and that will be the end of that power step. Now, I'm going to say I'm going to pass. I'm not going to play anymore. Sigmarite will probably also pass, and then we're done with the power step. Now it is the Sigmarite's turn to activate. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to probably get rid of this. I don't want to get rid of this because it's worth so many points. I want to keep that as a possibility. This one's worth fewer points, and it's also, I don't know, we'll see. I mean, they both go well together because if you annihilate them, they're definitely not on your thing. So that's a lot of points you can get. I want to keep this one though. So I'm going to discard this one for one activation and then draw a replacement, which actually doesn't help that much because objective 2 is way over there. So didn't really work that well, but it is something that we can work towards. So that was the end of my activation. Now we can play power cards as well. I look at my things here and again, don't have any points. This one's not going to help me very much right now either. So I'm not going to play any power-ups. I pass, and so will the Gore, the Reavers. And so now we go to the next activation. Let's see here. He cannot move because he's already moved once, so that was an unfortunate set of events. He has moved, but it was a push, so he actually isn't, he can be activated to move again, but I think I want to get some of my other guys up to the front, so we're going to go ahead and activate. We're going to do the Blooded Sake back here, and we're going to activate him. He moves 4, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. And that places a moved token on him as well. But at least we have a little bit of a unified front there, which is cool. And then during my power step, nope, I don't want to play any power-ups, and I don't think the other person will either. So now we just go to the next activation. Looking again at the Sigmarites, we want to make sure that we keep that in mind. And this one is one that we want to try to do as well. So we're going to be a little bit, I guess you could say, trepidatious, very cautious in this first round, so we can try to make sure that we don't get any damage against us. So we're going to keep that in mind, and we're going to activate another one here. We're going to remove Bright Shield, Angarod Bright Shield, 1, 2, 3, like so. Now, I can't move through here because this hex right here is impassable terrain, denoted by the thicker white line and a little bit of a shaded effect there. So we're going to move her back here. I have the opportunity to play a power card. I'm not going to. They also have the power step. Now, the Reavers also have the opportunity to play a power card here, and this time I think we are going to do that. We're going to do a Blood Offering, which says here that we can choose a friendly fighter. They suffer 1 damage. So we're going to go ahead and take 1 damage on Garrick Gorebeard, and during the first attack of the next activation, they're going to be able to roll 2 extra attack dice. So this is a pretty nasty thing that's going on here. The Sigmarite left Aubryn over here by himself, and that's really how the Reavers really work. They want to gang up on one dude that is kind of left by his lonesome. So we're going to see if we can actually get that to happen. And now it comes to the activation of Garrick, because that's who we're definitely going to activate, and he gets to move 4, and if I do a charge, he will be also able to attack with only 1 activation. So he's going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have to put a charge marker on him. He will not be able to be activated for anything for the rest of the round, but the round's almost over, so I think we'll be okay. So now we roll an attack. We see that he has a Bloodbringer Axe, He is next to his target, so that's good. He's going to roll 2 dice, but because of the blood offering, he's also going to roll 2 more. So he's going to roll 4 dice altogether. And then we look at Aubryn. Aubryn the Bold here has his card, and he's going to be rolling 1 in defense. So that's 1 black die in defense, and he's going to want to try to get shields, or criticals also count as shields, possibly. So that's what we'll roll. We'll just, for brevity's sake, roll them all together, like so. All right, so Aubryn did not defend, but Garrick did score a hit with that right there. Now, these faces right here only help, these faces here only help if you have people in support. So, for example, if this guy were up here supporting my attack, then this face would also have been a successful hit. As long as I have 1 extra person helping me. If I have 2 extra people helping me, like something like that, then those would help, and these would also help. So the more people that you have ganging up on 1 person, the better. But sometimes you just have to kind of go for it. So we did score 1 hit. Aubryn didn't get the defense that he needed. So he does take damage equal to the damage profile of the attack. So Aubryn will take 2 damage. Well, at the end of that activation, now we have the opportunity to play another power card, and there is nothing really that I can do because all of my cards are upgrades. On the Sigmarite's turn, well, Sigmar's Bulwark did not happen this phase, did it? So we're going to have to kind of write that off. So what else are we going to do? There's not much that we really can do. Except, well, you know what? We're just going to smack him right back. So here we go. Aubryn's attack rolls 2 dice, and Garrick's defense is 1 die, and he's looking for the dodge symbol. So we're just going to roll these 3 together, and he got a success. But Garrett rolled more crits than Aubryn did, which means that it is a successful defense, no matter how many successes Aubryn had. Now, if there had been, for example, if this had been a critical with a hit, they would be tied on criticals, and then that would be a hit. He would score 3 damage and then actually take Garrick out. But because this was a nothing, you have 1 hit against 1 critical, the critical will win because there were more criticals rolled by the defense. So now it comes back to the Reaver's turn. At the end of Aubryn's activation, both players decided not to play any cards because they don't have anything that can really help right now. So now it becomes the Reaver's final activation for the round, and we're simply going to, let's see, what do we have here? We do have that objective 5, so we're going to try to scoot in there. Can we do it? 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we can't get there. Oh man, so close and yet so far. But with that having been said, we're going to activate Arnulf here and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 1 away. And he has moved now and will not be able to move again. At the end of that activation, I don't have any cards that I can play, so I will pass. The Sigmarite player will pass, and now we go to their final activation for the round. And now with the Sigmarite's turn, we're going to go ahead and just go 1 over here, and he has moved, which means that we got to put this guy on him, denoting that he just can't move again. And then that will be the end of my activation. And I'm not going to play any power cards. They're not going to play any power cards. Now we go into the end phase. Now in the end phase, we first of all look to see if we have any objectives that we can score. I don't have any objectives that I can score, and neither do the Reavers, because this was the one that they really had a chance at scoring, and they weren't able to get somebody to hold that objective before the end of the phase, the action phase. So during this end phase, we're going to basically not be able to score anything, but you can also take and discard any unwanted power cards and objective cards, and then draw back up to 3 and 5 respectively. The other player, the Reaver player, will be the opportunity to do the same thing during the course of the round. All of the tokens would come off the board like so. And then we would go into the next round with an initiative roll, each player rolling 4 dice, and whoever gets the most crits gets to decide who goes first. And you do that 2 more times. The game takes place in 3 rounds. Whoever has the most glory points at the end of those 3 rounds, whether they have been spent or unspent, is the winner. All right, so that is Warhammer Underworlds Shadespire. Now, of course, I didn't go over every single little nuance and every little detail of the rules. Just wanted to give you a basic idea of how a round plays out, with the knowledge that the game does last for 3 rounds, and then whoever has the most glory points at the end of that is the winner. So hopefully you get a kind of an idea of how a round plays out and how the game will feel throughout that. A couple of things that I wanted to provide. Each side comes with their own deck of cards, and they're already pre-built. But they also come with this little deck of extra cards, and each faction has more cards in it. And then there are also some generic cards that can be added to either deck as well. So this comes in the deck, in the core box. And so this will provide a little bit more diversity, a little bit more variability as you explore that aspect of the game of building your own deck, constructing your own deck of cards before the game actually begins. So that's a cool thing. I really enjoy that. I also like the fact that they're giving you these quick start rules and a rather well-written rule book. There's pretty good detail in here as far as explaining how all of the different things work out. They have a lot of diagrams and so forth and so on. There is a lot of text, and some of that text is fluff. That would be my only really minor quibble, is that they include a good bit amount of fluff text in their rules explanation. But I don't really necessarily mind that. I just wish that on some level, there would be more differentiation between this is rules, that's fluff. So that, because I found myself reading through some of them, and I'm like, okay, this entire, the last 2 sentences I just read were just fluff. They didn't really, they provided thematic flair, but they weren't explaining any more of the news. They're just too verbose, is basically what I'm saying. Again, minor quibble. I'm not even going to count that as a con, actually, because the rulebook is actually very well written and very clear about how the game works. And the fact that they have this quick start rules just adds to that. So that's my first pro. Well-written rulebook, good quick start rules. Really enjoy that a lot. My second pro is the fact that there are variable player powers. The Eternals feel, play, their cards are very, very different from the Reavers. You feel like you are playing a completely different faction, and I love that. The Reavers, same thing. The style of play that you employ, it's very much a mob mentality, and you want to try to pounce on that guy that's by himself so that you guys can really cause a lot of damage that way. And then, of course, the decks, the different power cards that are in the decks are very much, they feel very, very different, rather, than the ones that you find in the Eternal deck. I really enjoy that. Now, of course, there are cards in each deck that are in both of them. So there are all those generic cards that are there, but the ones that are specific for the factions, they feel very different. They have different powers that they can trigger. I really think that that's cool. Now, when I played with the designers back in Nottingham, I played both sides, and I got torn in half on both games. On those initial games, at least. I also played a couple other times as well, but I wanted to make a point of playing both sides first, so that I had that feeling of each faction and how they played, and if they were balanced. Got my tail handed to me using both factions. So to me, either I'm just really a bad player, or the game's balanced, and each faction is just as strong, but in different ways than the other one. Another pro of the game is quite simply the models. And yeah, you could have probably mentioned this first. And again, I mentioned this in one of my Cool Mini or Not reviews about Massive Darkness, because you just kind of start expecting this. These models are amazing, and they're amazing for a couple of different things. They're high quality, ultra high quality miniatures. The detail and how the different joining lines are hidden and that type of thing is amazingly well done. But on top of that, these things are easy to put together. Each model only has 3 to 4 pieces, as compared to up to possibly 10 on some of their other style models. So these are the easy to put together models. They're also snap fit models. Now, other companies have tried doing snap fits, and I've tried putting them together, and they're nowhere near as easy to put together as these are. So really, in my opinion, based on my experiences, Games Workshop knows how to do snap fit models, and they look great. They don't look like snap fit models. So that's a huge pro for me. While we're talking about the models, you have blue and red, so you don't actually have to paint them. Now, I will say that, especially with the Reavers, unless you really pay attention to those icons that are in the cards that show you which model goes with this card, it's easy to get them confused, because quite frankly, they all look really like nasty guys, and they all have these huge axes and all this kind of stuff. So the poses are really what differentiate them between them, and that gets lost a little bit. A way to get around that is to, of course, paint them and have them look different than just having a red plastic model there. So with that having been said, I think the models are great. I think the fact that they come in 2 different colors, also great, because you don't have to paint the models if you don't want to. But the detail, the precise nature of, even the bases on these things are amazingly well detailed. And they're just going to be a great, fun time to paint as well. So models knocked it out of the park, as per usual with Games Workshop. Other production values, and again, we're just going down the list of pros here. The card stock is all good. The level of text to graphics on the card, I don't know exactly what you would call it. Maybe it's the graphic design of each of the cards is really good. It's also functional, but it also carries over that theme of your faction. The cards on your characters are all very easy. The iconography is intuitive and doesn't produce a lot of questions or, really, what does that do again? What does that symbol mean? No, it's very simple, and I like just the concise nature of all the information on the cards. Really good. The different tiles, like the objective tiles that you use, they're a little thin, but they're very durable. The actual boards that you have here are also very high quality. They are double-sided. I mentioned that earlier, but I didn't show it to you. Now, their quality is off the charts with their miniature games. Everybody knows that, but their board games are starting to get that crisp pop aesthetic look. The artwork on the boards is great. Artwork on the cards is great. The layout of the cards are good as well. There's just a lot of positive stuff going on here for the production quality. They're really starting to step up their game. Let's get to the cons of the game. And you know what? I've really been trying to think really hard about the cons that I would mention for this game, and I can't find any. They're probably there, but this is the kind of game that I really enjoy. And when they showed it to me at Nottingham a few months back, I was blown away. And I was hoping that maybe I was just, a kid in a candy store or something like that. And maybe I was going to be able to be a little bit more objective when I got it back home and put stuff together and read through the rule books and all that kind of stuff and get a few plays in, see what how my kid reacted to it. He got, I'm not trying to brag here, but when we played last night, he got torn in half. but he still said he enjoyed the game, and he understood that it could have gone either way if some of his die rolls would have been just a little bit better. So there's a lot of things that go into this game, and really, this is, I'm just going to say it now, this is the best Games Workshop board game that I've played yet. And I hope that it's a trend that's marking towards even better games to come out, because I think they're on the right track. They're headed down the right path. I just hope that they keep hammering down that path and improving. And I think they will. So this one for me gets a strong 9 out of 10. Now, you might be saying you didn't have any cons, and except for the minor quibble about the rule book, and you're only giving it a 9 out of 10. Well, that's simply because I'm very sparing with the 10s that I give out. I usually don't give a whole lot of 10s. So a 9 for me is like very, very high praise. It's as close as you can be as getting a 10 than without being a 10, of course. So 9 out of 10 for me is huge. Don't diminish it. Just because I don't give it a 10 doesn't mean I don't think that it is one of the best games for me this year so far. So that's it from me for Warhammer Underworlds Shadespire. We'll see you guys on the flip side.